Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. You ever deal with someone so entitled that they think rules just don't apply to them? Well, that's exactly what happened when a woman demanded special treatment at the roller coaster our OP was running. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Lady demands her son ride first, ends up being the one who has to leave. This happened a few years ago when I worked at our local amusement park. At this amusement park, we only had one roller coaster. It was by far one of our most busy rides. I typically worked at the go-karts. It was the best. But one morning I was told to go to the roller coaster. Dang. And this is where the story begins. EM equals entitled mom, EK equals entitled kid, me equals, take a guess, SS equals shift supervisor, who's a good friend of mine. Everything's going well, not too busy. After a ride was completed, the kids all jumped off and ran through the exit. While closing the exit gate, I noticed EK is jumping over and under the line dividers and skipping the line. I open the entrance gate and start filling the ride. EK was one of the last kids who was going to get on, and I felt like this wasn't fair to other customers. So the exchange goes like this. Me: hey bud, I'm sorry, but I saw you jump the line earlier. These people behind have been waiting longer, and you'll have to go behind the line. EK: I didn't jump the line. Me: I'm sorry, but I did see you jump the line while I was closing the exit gate earlier. Then a few other clients started to make comments about him jumping the line. This is when EM jumps in. She was hanging out at the line entrance with other non-riding parents. EM: what's going on? Why is my son not getting on the ride? Me: I'm sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am, but when I was closing the exit gate earlier, I saw your son jumping our line fences and skipping the line ahead of other waiting customers. I'm just asking him to go to the back of the line since other customers have been waiting. EK: I didn't skip anybody. EM: see, he hasn't skipped anyone, so let him on. Customers shouting comments about her son's a liar and to move. Me: I'm sorry, but I know what I saw and I have to be fair to other customers. EM: are you saying my son's lying? I want to talk to your manager. Me: okay. I radio in my bud, the shift supervisor, and explain to him what's going on. He shows up. She basically says to him that I called her son a liar and am refusing to let him on for no good reason, and I should be punished for being so rude. They start arguing, but eventually another adult waiting in line says, let him on. We all know he skipped the line, but let's move on. The other customers seem to agree with this. This is what happens after. EM: you know what? Because of all this, I want to go on the ride with my son. Everyone just rolled their eyes. SS: just let her in. Me: all right. I turn around and open the gate. EM with a smug look on her face: where should we go? Me: you're one of the last groups to get on, so only the last carts are still free. EM: good. Just an FYI, please don't call my son a liar ever again or I'll get you fired. I decided to ignore and let her go on the ride, and since I already had my plan figured out, the entrance and exit is located at the front of the roller coaster, so to get to the back ones they had to walk by all the customers they skipped. Before we start the roller coaster, we have to complete a few safety checks, basically making sure they're buckled properly and the safety bar is pushed in and engaged. The thing with the safety bars is that you have to push them in far enough to engage a limit switch. If all of the limit switches aren't closed, we can't start the roller coaster. The thing is, EM had a larger than average circumference, and I already knew that she was too large for the limit switch to close. Typically, if we had a large customer come in, we used a tool to bypass the limit switch and start the ride. But oops, this is where my petty revenge comes in. Me: excuse me, ma'am, I need to push in your roll bar further in, or I can't start the ride due to safety reasons. EM: what? This is ridiculous. Okay, go ahead. I start pushing on the safety bars. We hear a couple of clicks. You can see she's being crushed. I check our panel. No luck. Everyone's staring at her, and she's fire truck red. EM: what's going on? Me: sorry, ma'am, but you're going to have to suck in your stomach if you want to ride the roller coaster. Other customers are loving this, and she's getting really embarrassed. EM: try again. Me: okay. Walk back to our console. Nope, no luck. Still says the bar isn't engaged. EM: so what are you going to do about it? Me. I'm sorry, ma'am, but unfortunately this ride isn't designed for someone your size. I'm going to have to ask you to get off the ride. EM. You have to be effing kidding me. Are you saying I'm fat? Me. Oh, no, ma'am. I'm just saying you're too large for this specific ride. At this point, she storms out, PO'd as hell, walking by all the customers she skipped. She's mumbling and swearing out of embarrassment. It was so sweet to watch. I put another kid on the ride with her kid, and I start the ride no problem. EK and EM might have delayed the ride by a good 15 minutes, but I feel like everyone agreed it was worth it. She made a scene with SS again, but he agreed with me up and told her there's nothing we can do. Some people think rules don't apply to them, but this mom learned the hard way that entitlement won't get you everywhere, especially when physics are involved. Did she learn anything? Of course not. Entitled people never do. She went straight back to your supervisor, still demanding to be treated like royalty after humiliating herself, and your shift supervisor had your back, which makes this even sweeter. And our second story. Karen demands a month-old return, tries to pay without ID, still leaves mad. For context, I'm a teenager working at a grocery store. I don't remember the exact time when it happened, but was the first true Karen I've ever dealt with. That day, I was working the cash register, and this old lady in an electric scooter comes to my line. She wanted her refrigerated stuff separate from her freezer stuff in plastic, then in paper bags. Me and the sacker were trying our best to keep them separated, but then she said to put the bag with the chemicals, the cleaners and stuff, in the refrigerated paper bag. After all that, she gives me an old receipt with a bottle of vitamins and says, I want to return this. I got the wrong kind, even though it was purchased a month ago. I call my supervisor, and he takes it and walks over to the manager. I could tell that she was angry. He was able to process the return, thankfully, saving me and the sacker from being yelled at. Then she tries to pay with check. At my store, we accept checks, but a valid ID must be present so we can copy down the numbers and stuff. I asked for her ID, but then she says that she lost it, but had the numbers and stuff already written down on the check. I told her that I couldn't process it without the ID for verification purposes, and then she begins digging in her purse for it. 5 minutes passed, and she thankfully found it, so I was able to complete the transaction. I handed her the receipt and told her, have a nice day. She didn't even say anything. Luckily, the customers behind her were understanding and weren't upset because of the wait. And after all that, not even a thank you? Some people really just exist to drain retail workers of their will to live. And our last story. Karen thought my property was hers. Now she has to find a new one. I knew my neighbor was a nightmare, but I never expected things to escalate this badly. For years, she and her husband had been distant, never speaking to us except to throw dirty looks our way. Her husband seemed like a decent guy, just completely beaten down by his wife. Anytime I tried talking to him, she would summon him away like he was on a leash, but I never let it bother me, until now. It started with a text message out of the blue. She had never spoken to me in nearly 7 years, but suddenly she decided she needed something, and not just anything, she wanted my driveway. Apparently, she wanted to build a pool for her kids and needed my driveway for access. I had no idea what she even meant by that, but she made it clear I was expected to hand over my property so her spoiled kids could have a pool. When I told her no, absolutely not, she went ballistic. She started throwing racist insults about my kids, they're half Korean, and when I ignored her, she blocked off my driveway with traffic cones. I moved them and blocked her garage in retaliation. That got her attention. Then came the voicemails. I'm building my pool whether you like it or not, so just sign the damn papers. Do the right thing, you little bee. She was completely unhinged. I didn't take her seriously. I thought she was just ranting, but that was a huge mistake. The next day, pool contractors showed up. I was pulling out of my driveway for work when I saw trucks parked outside her house. That's when I got a bad feeling. I called my wife and asked her to keep an eye out. 2 hours later, my wife called me in a panic. The workers are in our driveway and they're ripping out our hedges. I immediately left work and sped home. When I arrived, I saw the contractors pulling up bushes and making way for construction. They had no idea they were trespassing. I told them to stop immediately and called their office to inform them that I had never given permission. That's when she came outside screaming, "You can't stop this! The driveway is mine! My kids deserve a pool! Why should your kids have one and not mine?" I tried explaining again that this was my property, but she was so far gone that logic didn't register. Then she dropped this gem. "Your wife's sister told me it was okay, and that's all the permission I need." Excuse me, what? My wife has 2 sisters, and I've never been close with them. The younger one's a mooch who's been leeching off us for years, and the older one once straight up called me a racial slur during an argument, so I immediately went inside to get my wife involved. Turns out the younger sister had been talking to my neighbor for over a year. She'd mentioned that the city once took a small piece of my property via eminent domain for a sidewalk expansion. Somehow my psycho neighbor took this to mean she had the right to just take whatever she wanted. I was done. I immediately called the cops and reported trespassing and property damage, called my lawyer to prepare for a lawsuit, and had a fence installed around the entire property. My neighbor lost her mind when she saw the fence going up. She was screaming at the workers, demanding they stop, calling me a thief for taking her driveway, but it was too late. I filed a lawsuit against her for damages. The court ordered her to pay for the hedges she'd ripped out and cover part of the cost for the fence. She threw a full tantrum in court, screaming about how unfair it was. Then came the best part. Not long after losing in court, a for sale sign went up in front of her house. Apparently, she and her husband were having financial troubles, and the lawsuit had pushed them over the edge. She was forced to sell the house and leave. Goodbye, Karen. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. What kind of delusional narcissist decides they can just claim someone else's driveway? I get that people can be entitled, but this lady really woke up one day and thought, you know what? I deserve part of my neighbor's property. Like, that's just a normal thought people have? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.